All right, so continuing, let me focus that a little bit. Turn on the light. All righty, so you are going to end up on the first part. I have no answer bank for this side. There's nothing, and you'll see why in just a second. It's actually pretty easy. You're going to be graphing these numbers, so all the positive ones, are they going to be on the right side of the graph or the left side of the graph? The right. Here's all the positive ones, and this is in what unit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's all in fifths. So 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5 is 1, and then 1 and 1/5, 1 and 2/5, 1 and 3/5, 1 and 4/5. And when you're given a graph, you should do something like I just did so that you come up with the same thing. And it's the same thing going backwards, basically the same thing. They put the additive inverse or the opposite. So same thing going backwards, negative 1/5, negative 2/5, negative 3/5, negative 4/5, negative 5/5, and so on, until we get up to 1 and 4/5. So we'll graph maybe a couple of these. Oh, I know which ones we'll graph. Oh, this is a good one. Huh. Where are we going to graph that one? 2.75. So I know it's got to be on the right side, and it's going to be past the what? Well, isn't it past the 2? So it's going to be past the 2. And here's the problem is these are in fractions. So we've got to find out the decimal form of 1/5. Do you know what 1/5 is as a decimal? By the way, if I want to find out real quick, I'm going to put it into tenths or hundredths. So I'm going to make this 0.2. I'm sorry, times 2 times 2. So this is 2/10, which is 0.2. So each of these sections are 0.2. So this would be in the decimal form 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and this makes sense. 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10. So this is 1 and 8/10, and then this is 2. This one would be 2.2, 2.4, 2.6, 2.8. So where do you think then the 2 and 75/100 should go? I didn't even put any hundredths. So if I want to get that precise, guess what I need to tack on to each of these? I need to make it hundredths. A 0. So I'm going to tack on, I'm looking for this number, so I'm going to tack on a 0. So 2 and 20 hundredths, 2 and 40 hundredths, 2 and 60 hundredths, 2 and 80 hundredths. Can you see now where 2.75 is going to go? In between which two numbers? Yeah, 260 and 280. So it's going to go right in here. Just kind of put a little arrow there, and 2.75. And then let's see it. So we did this one, which is another one that looks kind of, it's going to be difficult. Everything's in fifths, so these ones in fifths should be easy. This one should be easy. We just did this one. Oh, there's nothing else in fifths. Huh. So, how would you get this to make it look like fifths? Could you divide it by 2? Yeah, so let's see what this looks. If we divide it by 2, so that would be 1.5 over 5. So it's 1.5 fifths, 1.5 fifths. So then if you have it in fifths, then is this going to go on the positive side or the negative side? Negative side. So again, because this is fifths, where is it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fifths. And if I made it 1.5, it's going to be 1. Where do you think it's going to be? Nobody knows? It's in this area somewhere because it's less than -1. So if this is right here, -1/5, this is -2/5. Okay. It's going to be in between those two. Okay. You could also, I don't want to complicate it, but you could also, if there's 5 sections, you could double it to make it tenths. In other words, I could put a little notch here, a notch here, a notch here, a notch here, and a notch here. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now it's in tenths. So then I could go 3/10 over without changing at all. So go backwards, 1, 2, 3. And again, it's still going to be right here. So you might just want to put a little arrow, and that -3/10 is going to go right here. How would you graph, oh my goodness, how would you graph -3 2/3? Is it going to be on the left side or the right side? On the left side? Somebody tell me an easy way that I could do this, like without making it into fifths, because I can't make it into fifths. Who thinks they know what I could do to my number line? Look at that 3. What could I do from here to here? To be able to graph this, it has to be in what? I could put it into a decimal. Do you know what that decimal is? Yeah, 3. So that's one way. 3 point, because 1/3 is 0.33333. 2/3 is double that, 0.666. So I'll just put it like this, 0.6. But the problem is, okay, then we could follow this. We could go, every one of those is 0.2. So this is -3.2, -3.4, -3.6, -3.8, and then our 4. So that would fall in between right here. Or I was hoping somebody would say, divide the section into thirds. So I could do that too, is from here to here, I could sort of divide and approximate 1/3, 2/3, such that I have 1, 2, 3. Then could you see where it goes? Then you can see it goes right here, which is again in between our 3.6 and our 3.8. So that one is going to go right here. So I'd probably try this technique. It might be easier that I don't have to divide it. So that is going to go 1/3, 2/3, right about here. -3 2/3. So I'm not going to have you divide or anything. Let's just finish these because these are annoying. So we did this one where we actually did this one. We did this one. We just got done doing this one. Now, 7/8. Let's approximate where this would be. I could divide it if I want. And the quick way to get 7/8, does anybody know? Do you know what 1/8 is? 125. Very good. So 7/8 would be this times 7. 35, that's going to be 14, 15, 16, 17, and that's going to be 0.875. So if we did that, I think we could find it. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. Here's 0.8. So it's going to be in between this and what? And the next one? It's going to be right about here. You don't have to be exact. If you don't want to go through all of that, again, even though they have it in fifths, you could take the number line, I know it's here, and I can section it off into 8. I cut it in half, cut it in half again, that's fourths, and cut my fourths into, cut those in half. So then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's right above where we put. So again, I could always divide it up into this many sections. And the only one we've got to do then is this one. This was probably the hardest thing on the whole worksheet. Man. So 0.25, that should be easy. This is point what? 0.2, 0.4. So is it going to be closer to 0.2 or 0.4? So it's going to be right about here. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. Oh, wrong. Nobody caught me. It's a negative. It's not going to be on the right side. It should be over here somewhere. So it's going to be 0.2, 0.4. So again, it's going to be a little bit, is that right? 0.2, 0.4. So it's going to be, I'll put it down here because I don't have room. A negative 0.25. Or, I know that's 1/4. I could have also taken that bar and cut it up into 4 sections, and it ends up here anyway. So there's lots of different ways you can graph it. You can convert or cut up your number line to match your denominator or decimal. So then, this I'm going to leave for you to do. Find, and they have it, I think, on almost exact points. Do they have letters up here? Write the rational number that corresponds to the point on the number line. Do they have any points? Oh, it's here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so what should A be? It's in between 0 and 1. Oh, these are going to be easy, folks. These are going to be easy. Because if it's halfway in between, it's 0.5 or 1.5. Halfway in between, you should be able to get those. But this F is the only one that's different. Is that F halfway in between -1 and -2? So who thinks they know the unit where that F is? Luke, what do you think? That's what I think. It looks like if I cut up into 4 sections, so that F should be -1 1/4. Now, this next section, again, I don't have an answer bank. It says write the additive inverse and the absolute value for each rational number. I'm going to change, so they're asking you to put 2 things. And to me, that just kind of confuses me to put 2 things on one line. We're going to do these 2 rows, AI, rows. We're going to do these 2 rows, the AI, the additive inverse, the additive inverse. So what would be the additive inverse to this one? 6.11. The number such that if I added it, they'd come to 0. What would be the additive inverse to this one? 18.7, such that I added it. Are these all negative? Okay. All right. What would be the additive inverse to 4.76? Negative 4.76. What would be the additive inverse to this one? The positive form of that. What would be the additive inverse to this one? Positive. So additive inverse is easy. Then this last one, we'll do the AV, the absolute value. So this is simple. This is why I didn't put an answer bank. What's the absolute value of 9.008? 9.008. Absolute value of negative 11.1 is 11.1. Is that easy, people? Absolute value of this one, negative 3.54, is 3.54. Yeah, again, let me look at our time. If we can do this, okay. Flip it to this first page on this side. So it says find the value of n, and they've already, so the n is, these are additive inverse, so it's going to come to 0. What's this answer going to be? Now, that's going to be 0. What's, okay, This one, what would the additive inverse of negative 6/7 be to become a 0? 6/7. What would the additive inverse be of negative 11/15 to make it 0? Is a positive. Now, once you have a few of those, if you want to go back, the mixed up answers are in here on the very back page. So 0, 0, 6/7, 11/15. 0, 0, 6/7, and 11/15. So those answers are there. This one. Who happens to know? This is a good one. What happens when I do a negative times a negative? Positive. So what's its additive inverse going to be? It's going to be a negative because this becomes a positive. So your answer would be a negative 131 over 175. Then these we did a couple of examples of. Do we need to do more of those? I think you can handle these. Do you think? I think you could do these. Well, actually, no, I think you could do that. This one, what's the absolute value of this one? So yeah, so when I'm adding this, I'm taking that off. What's 8.5 and 8.5? It is 17. Oh, some of these are going to be easy. Like the absolute value of this is what? Is that. So what's a negative 7 and 7/8 and a positive 7 and 7/8? 0. Done. The only one that there's some sort of work to do is this one. So first of all, what is the absolute value of 700? 700 divided by, oh, I think we could do this in our head. Divided by what? 3.5. But I need to move that decimal. If I move that decimal, I have to add a what onto this? A 0. Good job. So it's going to be 7,000 divided by 35. And so now we could do it mentally. How many 35s are in 70? 2. With how many extra zeros? I've already counted 2 more. So it's going to be the answer is 200. And we're going to check to see if we're right. And there's a 200. So again, the answer bank is there for those. And at the end of 1 week, a certain stock had a value. Oh, these are simple. These are simple. At the end of 1 week, a certain stock had a value of $2.25 per share. At the end of the next week, it had the opposite value, which would be a negative 22.25. But at the end of the next week was the opposite of this opposite. What's the opposite? The opposite is this. Of the opposite. It's going to be a positive. So a little tricky reading on that. And I haven't read this one. We'll do it real quick. His score in the first game was negative 15. In the second card game, the team had a total that is the absolute value of the opposite in its final score. The absolute value of the opposite. Isn't positive 15 the opposite? That's what I'm thinking. They had a score of the absolute value of the, so sometimes you have to write it. I had to write that. Absolute value of the opposite of its first score. What is the team score for the second game? 15. That's a little twister there. So do we have a 15? Is it there somewhere? Did I not type it? Whoops. Do I have the 22 point? I didn't. I guess I didn't put those numbers. Oh well, but that's it. These should be easy. Do you remember your signs? Negative times a negative is a positive. This one you've got an odd amount of negatives. When you have an odd amount of negatives, it's always going to be what? A negative, always. It's going to be a negative. Oh, take it back, bad teacher. I have to first take the absolute value. So this negative stays, this negative, that 12, absolute value of 12 becomes a what? A positive 12. So this answer ends up being a what? Positive 12. So we should see a positive 12. And it's right here. If it's on the last of the page, it's on the last part of the word bank or the answer bank. So can you handle those? Okay, one more job that I thought you're in advance, the other classes don't have it, is just a quick review because we're getting into where you need to know these by heart. And I'm going to do this so fast. And if you want to do the puzzle, you can. I would suggest you do it to find at least one answer. My rule is if they're the same sign, you sum. If they're not the same sign, you do not sum. This is like 32 bad guys playing 10 good guys. Who's going to win, the good guys or the bad guys? The bad guys, because there's more of them. So negative, and if it's not, and they're going to win by how many? How many more do they have than the positives? 22. So same, okay, let me go to this one. Same sign sum. Negative guys are going to join up with more negative guys, and they're going to stay negative. And so that becomes a, can we add this in our head? That's 93. And again, you don't necessarily have to do the puzzle, but please find your answer. There it is, a negative 93. If you want to do the puzzle, you'd put the letter P. And wherever you see that. So the rule is same sign sum, and the sign stays the same. Right below it, same sign. What are you going to do with those? Sum those. And so that's going to be 161. Because I took 2 from this one to make that 100. So I could add it really fast. These are not the same sign, so I do not sum. Who's going to win, the good guys or the bad guys? The good guys. The good guys are going to win because they've got how many more than the bad guys? They've got 8 more. 50 bad guys, 50 good guys, who's going to win? None, because it's an even match. Good guys, bad guys, no, bad guys, good guys, who's going to win? The bad guys, because they've got how many more? I can't do that one in my head. But whatever you do, you can do right here. That's going to be 6, and that's going to be 17. I think it's going to be 18, 186. And negative. Again, the rule for me is same sign sum, and the sign stays the same. Sign stays the same. Or if it's not the same sign, you do not sum, you take the difference. Do you guys remember that? That is your job, people. And we're going to close it up here and go back. These are going to go super fast. Let's see, 11 times 20 is 21. All righty, and that is it.